Hannah do set. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And I was supposed to do a review on So Close, the Chinese Hong Kong film. I said I was gonna do, but my situation will not allow for me to be great. My family are everywhere at home because I usually do the videos in the living room and can't wait. Every time I start, like the So Close video, I think I did that. Like I tried doing it like probably 12 times, and every time I actually did make a full 45-minute thing, and I had to delete it because I didn't like how I sounded. Because every time I had to pause it and do this, and there's so many noise in the background, and right now heat are killing me. Oh gosh, the place is so hot. And then I ended up changing it from doing So Close to doing a review on 10 things I hate about you. That was the one that I actually did the 45 minutes on, and I just didn't like how I sounded. I didn't sound enthusiastic, like how I always sound. Yeah, so I said, you know what? Let me just see if I'm able to do a short review of something else that I like. Webtoons. Love reading webtoons, love reading manga. I like watching anime. I wouldn't really say love. I'm more of a reader than a watcher. What I want to talk about is this webtoon that I read like 2 days ago called Dark Mortal. Dark Mortal. Listen, I talk Patwa, so sometimes my pronunciation may be a little off. So it's called Dark Mortal. Gum Un Ingan by Lee Jo Nyok. The genres attached to it are action, mystery, psychological, school life, slice of life, and supernatural. And honestly, I have to say, this webtoon is really good. You can read it on the Webtoon app if you're interested. It's under the completed section, so it's gonna end up going into like daily fast. But you can also search for it on Google or Firefox or whatever you guys use. The synopsis says Gangnam lost his parents from a fire and has turned blind from the incident. He wasn't able to see anything but a hallucination called kamjang. Is kamjang actually a hallucination or something more? Now, how do I go about like describe? Ignore the noise again. Like I said, my family will not allow me to be great, so ignore any noise you hear. So how should I? It's about 79 to 80 chapters probably, and it's a really good action webtoon, and I usually saw it on Webtoon and all the other comic sites that you go on, like Bato and manga decks and so on and so forth. I usually see it when I'm looking for a particular manga, but I skipped it because I was saying like I don't want to watch that. I don't want to read that, and I'm like, you know what? Let me read it because Webtoon was giving away 5 coins if you read 30 episodes of a particular, and I wanted that 5 coins, so I ended up reading it. I'm like, this is really good. So anyways, the main character is called Gangnam, and like the synopsis said, he became blind due to an incident. Now, initially, when you read it, you're like, oh, this seems straightforward, and then as you go along, nothing is as it seems. So Gangnam lost his sight in a fire at his home, and he was adopted by this old man who ended up saving him. And turns out that the old man actually was kind of involved in his life before that incident because the old man knew his brother. And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. So initially, between the first 10 chapters, it's just the introduction of the characters. And you have no idea that Gangnam has a brother because he ended up losing his memory. And you have no idea that he lost his memory until you go further into the story. And it's just like really cool. So anyways, like I said, like the introduction said, he met, not really met, he has a imaginary friend called Kamjang. Now, Kamjang is what you call a dark mortal. Again, maybe I'm using terminologies that you won't really see initially until you go further into the story. But Kamjang is what you call a dark mortal. Now, a dark mortal is a person who has some unique abilities. They're super fast, they're able to withstand pain, they're able to do martial art, things like that. They don't necessarily have powers to say they can control fire or they can control water. Nothing like that. They were literally humans who were really good at a particular action. They underwent some experimentation and became literally dark mortals. They no longer have any skin or anything like that, but they're covered in this like black goo or something that it's wispy, kind of like this spiritual thing, yeah, because in a couple of the chapters you see where Kangnam, like, he moves his hand and they go up into smoke, or they disappear into like smoke or something like that. So as a scientist, he ran some experiments on some humans and turned them into dark mortals. Now what he did is he had persons inhale them to receive, like I said, they're kind of like smoke. That's how they operate. They're like smoke. So he had persons inhale them, and these persons are able to receive whatever incredible ability the dark mortal had. Now how most persons operate with the dark mortal is that they have a ring. This kind of suppresses the dark mortal from gaining control of the person. And as usual with most anime, webtoon, manga, or anything like that, you know what really pushes a person's limits is anger. Because nobody limits get pushed when they're happy. Gets frustrated when they're sad, but usually anger. So how a dark mortal is able to take control of your body is if you get really angry. Now some other characters that friend Kangnam are Soho. He is also an individual that has a dark mortal. His story is super sad. Habyol and Jinhyuk, these two are siblings. Dahyun is this girl that Kangnam met when he was younger. Those are really the main characters, and there are two other characters that he befriends. There's also Grandpa, like I mentioned. There is another guy, Professor Jang. He's the one that did the experiments, and a couple other characters. But those are the main characters. And what happened is when he was young and he lost his sight, he actually became disfigured on, I think, his left side of his face. So persons used to mock him and laugh at him and things like that, and he never made any friends except for Dahyun. He actually made friends with her, but she left, like, I think it basically like the same day they met each other, she left. So he kind of like forgot about her briefly. Yeah, so that's basically like from chapters 1 to 10. And then going forward, how should I say this? Kangnam has, I think he has over 200 dark mortals in him. I don't remember if the exact number. He has about 200 dark mortals in him. Alright, so what happened is Kangnam had a brother. He didn't remember that he had a brother because of the accident. His brother was sick, but his brother didn't tell anybody, and he ended up meeting this man. In a way, it kind of coming like Squid Game, where the main character met the guy. Oh, he met Goblin. I can't remember his name right now for some reason. But anyways, he met Goblin. And, Goblin gave him the ticket or the thing to say, oh, you can join Squid Games. Yeah, it's kind of like that. So, Kamnang's brother met, his brother's called Gun. So, Gun met this man, and the man said, oh, yeah, we're doing some life-saving experiments, and it can help you, and you get to go back to your family and all of that. Gun does that, goes to the man, and the experiment that the guy is running, the professor, he's called Professor Jang, he's running the Dark Mortal project. So he has Gun ingest or inhale about 200 Dark Mortals, because what happened is whenever the Dark Mortals go into you, he expected it, to take control and all of that, but Gun is just behaving fine. So there was this particular Dark Mortal that he couldn't control, and that Dark Mortal was called Green Eyes. Now when he inhaled the Green Eyes, he actually started behaving a little differently. By Green Eyes was probably experiment 22. He ended up inhaling Green Eyes, and Green Eyes basically took control of his body. And then he freed the Dark Mortals and ingested them. So that's exactly how he got the 200 Dark Mortals. I think Professor stopped at Green Eyes, experiment 22. But when everybody was sleeping, Green Eyes took control of his body, opened up the canisters that they kept the Dark Mortals in. When you watch sci-fi shows and you see they're keeping mermaids or humans in these huge cylinder containers, that's what the Dark Mortals were kept in. And Green Eyes freed them and basically had Gun ingest or inhale all of them. So there were over 200. Eventually, Gun left and went home to his family, and the professor had two persons bring him home. The old man, which eventually became Gangnam's grandfather, and this other guy who was working with him. Now the other guy and grandpa, they were working together relatively well and everything. And what happened is the guy brought Gun home, and Gun's parents told him to stay so that they can, give him dinner and everything. And that's when the accident happened. Now, like I said before, all is not as it seems, because when it's showing different person's point of view, as it said, it's showing it from their point of view. But it turns out that the guy that they brought home, one, he has a dark mortal in him, and two, the professor had actually told him to kill Gun and Gun's family. And because of that, Gun, when he and the dark mortals in him realized what was happening, they decided to protect Gun's family. The only family they could have protected was Gangnam, because the mother and the father had already died. And it's just really a psychological twist, because you're reading it and you're like, wait, that's, and then, oh my gosh. And the surprises just never keep ending. When Gangnam realized what happened, because something had happened and he got his memory back. And it turns out that the little cute little Kangjam that he's seen, Kangjam's the little dark mortal. Unlike the other dark mortals, he's very tiny and really, really cute. So it turns out that Kangjam is actually his brother. And he took on the form of that particular dark mortal to be with his brother. Because what happened is he would have been like this monstrous looking thing, just like all the other dark mortals. But because one of the dark mortals told him that you can't go to your brother like that, he's going to be scared. So he turned into this really tiny thing. And he also suppressed his brother's memory. So his brother didn't remember about him or any other thing. This way he would be able to live a relatively normal life. But honestly, I would have shed a tear under any other circumstances. But that's it so far for Gangnam and Kangjam. So this is other character, Soho. So remember I said Soho has a dark mortal. Soho is actually the son of Professor Jang. Now, Soho's story is just as sad as Gangnam's, if not sadder probably, because Soho was this really sweet little boy, and his father was obsessed with work. And because he was working on the Dark Mortal project and he wasn't getting the results that he wanted, what he did is he started abusing Soho, and then one day he decided that he was going to use Soho in the project. So this was like after the fact, with Gun, after he had sent to kill Gun's family. So what happened is he brought Soho into the room where he would inhale the dark mortal, and Soho is wondering where is his mother, because he hasn't seen his mother in a while. And the father's like, don't worry, you'll join her soon. And he's really abrupt with him. OMG. And when the thing opens, because what happened, it comes up like smoke and you would inhale it, but instead of that happening, it opens and this dark mortal comes out and it's on fire. And you can obviously tell that this is a female dark mortal and it's on fire, and she starts singing a lullaby, and you realize it's Soho's mother. And I'm like, shit, this is not serious. The author really did it. And it turns out Professor Jang is an asshole. Well, it doesn't turn out like that. We all know he was an asshole. But it turns out that he used his wife as that, and what she did is to protect her son from the flames. So she protected her son from the flames, but because she was hugging him and the flames still came out, so he ended up basically burnt bad. Now, when Professor Jang realized that it failed, he told the guy that he sent to kill Gun's family, he told him to get rid of the body. And the guy brought him outside, getting ready to shoot him. But instead, he just left him, because even though he's a lapdog, he still kind of have some humanity, I guess. And when he was there, there were two dark mortals in the canister, I think. And the dark mortal, he went into Soho and he said, I can save you because your mother actually tried to save you. So I'm going to let you live. And he went into him, and that's how Soho eventually became alive. The main thing is that Soho and Gangnam, they ended up joining forces. They became really good friends. They ended up joining forces to defeat Professor Jang. And like I said, there are so many twists, because in a couple chapters, find out that Dahyun, her stepfather, is an investor in the Dark Mortal project. Also, you find out that her stepfather, not really sanctioned, because he wasn't the one who ordained it, but he was a part of Dahyun's real father dying, because he was in love with Dahyun's mother and he wanted her for his wife. So when Professor Jang suggested that, they get rid of him, ironically, he's the one who created the Dark Mortal project. magic. But that wasn't his intention. He actually created it to help people. But the professor decided to turn it around. Then there's another story. And the side stories are really nice as well. So there's a side story with Jin Hyuk. That's one of the siblings. And he is this MMA fighter, preparing to be this MMA fighter or a boxer. And he's really good. At a couple points, I started wondering if he had a dark mortal in him, but turns out he's just really strong. And his story is really good. He kind of becomes involved because the persons who are after Soho and Gangnam, who are working for Professor Jang, they want to capture anybody related to them. So Soho and Gangnam, they try to, stay away from their friends, but that doesn't really work out. Then there is Green Eyes and a couple of the other Dark Mortals. And you would think, this is where the psychology come in, you would think that the Dark Mortals are wicked people. You would think that they're evil. And they're not, especially Green Eyes. Green Eyes is such a character. I honestly, at some point, I'm like, this guy is so wicked. He can't be trusted. He can't be. And then when you reach the end of the story, Green Eyes is just really this complex character. So yeah, I would suggest reading Dark Mortal. I didn't tell you every single thing. I can't spoil the ending for you. Dahyun and Kangnam ended up marrying, and Habyol and Soho ended up being a couple. Which is funny because Soho has always had a crush on Dahyun, but Dahyun has always had a crush on Gangnam because, they knew each other when they were younger, and Gangnam has always liked her, but Habyol had a crush on Gangnam and he slightly had a crush on her. And yeah, but aside from the convoluted love triangle, I would suggest reading Dark Mortal. It's a good story. Yeah, I'm gonna do some more reviews as well, an anime and webtoon series. Definitely next webtoon series I'm gonna talk about is Weak Hero, because Weak Hero is my shit. I love Weak Hero. I love Weak Hero. I love Weak Hero. So anyway, stay tuned and see y'all next time. Peace out.